Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to The Man That Can Project with Lachlan Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to The Man That Can Project.
We're on. Okay, gents, welcome back to another of our installments for Men's Health Week. Today, I've got a great mate and someone who we work together. You're a part of the Man That Can Project's breakthrough experience as we're going through COVID. So obviously we haven't been fortunate enough to yet meet face to face, but that will be happening as soon as our borders are opened, which is going to be great. And obviously, you know, there's a great bunch of guys who are a part of that program with you. But, you know, for me, one thing that I, you know, would love to understand more about, and, you know, something that I believe you're the man to help me get that understanding, but also a lot of blokes are part of the Man That Can Project's community, but also the wider community, is yourself, Cam. You know, you're a principal project delivery and global co-lead of Jasper. I love that name, Jasper. And which is BHP's LGBT plus, and I'm going to get that wrong a lot throughout this, so I do apologize, and I you know, will do my best. I will do my best to get better. Employee network. So you're obviously the founder of Jasper, which has grown to over 1,100 employees. That's phenomenal. When I was reading that, I was like, that is huge, significant. It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. It only started with me and a couple others just having a bit of a chat, and then realized we needed to have some type of network. So it's been quite a lot of fun.
It's awesome. And that spans across 11 countries, right? So you're also a recipient of the Network Leader of the Year, the 2019 Australian LGBTI Inclusion Awards. And mate, the list could go on. So I'm excited to, like I said, get an understanding. I'm sure a lot of guys are going to have a lot of questions. I definitely know there are men in the group who will be able to relate to some aspects of what we're talking about. But as with all the talks this week, my intention is to help not only myself for a selfish reason, but for all people to gain a greater understanding of, you know, essentially what it's been like to be you, Cam, which sort of leads me into that first question. What has it been like to be you?
Sure. It's been pretty, I've really enjoyed the breakthrough experience, but first I wanted to acknowledge the Indigenous traditional owners of the lands that we are on today. And here in Melbourne, I'm in the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and just pay my respects to their elders past and present. So firstly, you asked this conversation, I just want to highlight these are my views and comments expressed on my own and not of the company I work for. So what it's like to be me. Well, first I'm actually I'm going to reverse question you, Lachie, and I'm going to ask you 10 short questions, and you have to answer yes or no to these questions, okay?
My palms have just gone all sweaty, mate.
Excellent. So, have you ever lied about your sexuality?
No.
Have you ever had to come out?
No.
Have you ever doubted your parents' acceptance of your sexuality?
No.
Have you ever been told that your sexuality is just a phase?
No.
Have you ever been called a fag?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Have you ever been called a fairy or other derogatory slurs for homosexuals?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever tried to hide your sexuality?
No,
Have you ever needed to hide public displays of affection with your partner in public?
no. Although my missus tries to not let me do that. I think
Okay,
that those.
two more.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
two more.
Yeah, sorry.
You're two
Jumping
more.
the gun.
Have you ever, remember it's the top 10, have you ever pretended to just be friends with your significant other or your partner?
No,
Have you ever been violently threatened because of your sexuality?
no.
So that's like the top 10, and you've got two of them, and they might have been actually done as kind of jokingly, but
Yeah,
I suppose,
I was going to say for those ones, it's like that's, if I was as a lad, like playing footy or something, if I chickened out or something, it would just be the terms, you're a fucking pussy fairy or something like that thrown across. Probably not in the way maybe that question was intended or asked. I'm not sure.
yeah, that's right. But I suppose what I just wanted to highlight is for all of those questions, I've said yes, and most people that are kind of in the LGBT space have experienced a lot of that, and that's what it's like to be gay. You've kind of got to deal with all of that. And our societies are getting better, but that's kind of just a bit of thought. That was a bit of an example.
Mate, that's a brilliant, even for me, that hit home. I was like, why do you want to know this? Like, get out of my grill. So I think that's even for me, just asking those questions. So for those who are watching this back, or you probably already did do this when you heard Cam asking me, you may have been answering that for yourself. But let's talk about obviously the acronym, which I have already mentioned. I no doubt will get wrong, and I don't mean to do that in an offensive way. I just get the
No,
letters
that's right.
around
Well,
the wrong order. But
yeah,
it's LGBTGIA, QIA, sorry.
QIA can
And
be, well, in Australia, we call it QIA. It's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning is what people kind of
yep,
also describe it as. Intersex, and then A, which is kind of like asexual, which is really you don't really have an interest really.
yep, okay,
But let's just go with LGBT plus because it kind of is inclusive enough.
yep,
And that's just easier to say.
yeah. It's there's definitely a lot of letters there, but obviously it's there for the intention to be inclusive and to gain people an understanding. So I guess the question, and diving deeper into understanding more about what it's been like for you over those years, is tell me about like coming out for you, what that was like, and I guess the phrase as well, as you mentioned, coming out. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, I suppose first coming out is, I suppose, when you're telling people about your sexual orientation or your gender identity. And it's kind of weird because heterosexuals don't really need to come out because it's kind of just an understanding. But what people don't realize is that coming out isn't just a one-off thing that you just do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're doing it all the time. Like I might go to an event and meet some new people, and I don't know them well, but you kind of feel like you just need to come out again and again, and sometimes that can be quite exhausting. But for me, yes. So I don't know if you've got any friends or colleagues that are in the same situation. Well, I found it quite difficult. I wasn't out for many years. I worked in the mining industry, so I worked in places that were pretty blokey and not really accepting. So there's a lot of different challenges, and people shouldn't feel pressured to come out. Really, you got to take your time. Is what I'd say.
It's interesting. I've never really thought about the fact that like I've heard the term, and obviously I know yourself, and I've got a lot of other mates who are gay, and some have come out, some haven't publicly. But it's interesting, as you said, that you actually have to do that. Like it's for myself or heterosexual, it's just the norm, right? Like all the way people see the world. So it's like for me, bringing home a girlfriend, that's normal. But if I were to have brought home a boyfriend, there would have been a lot of questions asked, and even one of the questions you asked me is, it's a phase, right? Like just random things like that, where it's almost like you have to justify it, which to me from my way of seeing the world, and obviously there's a million different ways to see the world more. It's a shame that that's the way it is. Like for me, I'm just like, I can't wait till we get to a point where you don't have to justify anything. It just is what it is, right?
And I think we're all getting there, though. Like, I think that's what's really a good point, is that creating that environment that it's okay. Like that's what parents and families need a bit more of. But what's difficult when you're older is you've got all these society perceptions around you, and then all you're doing is you're constantly editing. So I kind of find it that this editing and thinking of someone that kind of sits outside your mind, you're kind of creating this different person all the time, and that can be quite exhausting. Again, people shouldn't feel pressured to come out. You really just should take your time. I did probably when I was probably a bit down, and my dad rang me and I was really upset, and he kept asking me why was I so upset, and I'd actually split up with a boyfriend at the time, and yeah, that's how it kind of just all happened accidentally. And then it went pear-shaped for a couple of years. Our family went through those challenges, and now we're coming out the other end. And I'm not a young guy anymore, but that felt like that wasn't too long ago, though.
How was that for you when you sort of did come out? Like, how did you feel personally?
At the time, it felt quite distressing. And in hindsight, I wish I'd set up a bit more of a support network around me.
Yep.
And I find that's where these men's groups are great for that, because you've got such a diverse of people, and once you get to know people, you feel comfortable to talk about who you are. If I had some more of that, more support network around me, I probably would have dealt with it a little bit better.
Yep.
But that was tough for a while. And then even my mum kind of wasn't that supportive, and then she became much more supportive, and my auntie and my cousins, the rest of my family become much more supportive. My work was really supportive, which was excellent. So I think that's probably the most important thing, having that support network around you.
100%. You definitely have touched that. So for people who are listening who may be going through that at the moment, and this doesn't just even, it's so important to have that support network around you. And I guess for yourself, Cam, like, where would you, for someone who doesn't feel like they have that support network around them, like, do you have any sort of tips or maybe even resources or tools or anything that you could point their way?
Oh, definitely. There's Q Life, which is like LGBT service that people can call up and have a conversation. Yep. There's websites and resources. The internet's got lots of options now, but yep. Australia is quite well resourced. So Q Life is a great service, and yep. whilst it's actually operates out of Victoria, it's available across Australia, and each of the states have their LGBT friendly counselling services as well. Yeah. It's just interesting how we kind of identify ourselves, because that's what it's all about, how you identify yourself and your sexuality and your gender identity. Yeah. So I'm going to do another reverse question now with you. You're going to tell me how, if we were going to meet straight away, and you'd never met me before, so you're going to meet me for the first time, how would you describe yourself? Like,
that's a great question.
Hello, I'm what?
What was that? Sorry.
Talk to me. I'd say, okay. Hello, I'm Lachlan.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Lockie. How you going? Great to meet you. To be fair, that's how I'd.
Give me 15 seconds about you.
15 seconds about me. I love going for walks on the beach, but no, I love surfing. I love going, surfing. I run my own business, and I really passionate and driven to make a difference in men's health.
Okay, so I suppose you did touch on where I was going, but the first thing you kind of talk about your job, your career, you know, some of your business.
That's a really bloody hard question, mate. That one, when you get me unprepared or no,
I like this. I know I get you now.
Yeah.
And the second thing we usually do is then they talk about their education or their schooling, and then if you kind of we go into the conversation a bit longer and we have like a chat for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll talk about our, you know, family and, you know, kids and a partner. And then sometimes we'll talk about then religion and culture if we start getting a bit more comfortable with people.
Yep.
The thing that's interesting is we don't talk about our gender identity, our sexual orientation, because it's usually inferred. You kind of you just make these assumptions. So
true.
And you try to do that naturally. So as an LGBT person, from that first sentence, when you're talking about your job or your family, you're already editing. If you're not out, you're kind of editing. So you're changing, you're thinking about your story.
Yeah.
And that can be quite exhausting from that first sentence where, and I suppose that's what you can kind of notice in your either environment, or if you've got friends that might be identifying, might be out. You might realize that they might turn up to events or things like that because of that editing. But yeah, it's just something I thought was interesting.
Definitely interesting. And I think, you know, even going back to those first questions you asked me, for me, like I mentioned earlier, it was like, why are you asking me? Like, why is it relevant? Almost that's how I felt. And for those who watch this, I don't know how you guys felt, but obviously people are going to feel different ways about it. But it sort of brings me to like, I felt uncomfortable while you were asking me that. Like I said, it's like, it's none of your fucking business really. Sorry for swearing, but this is how it's going. So what can we do to make you, or not make you essentially, but make it more comfortable, right? For people, because, you know, from people that I've spoken to, I know, you know, in the I always get LGBT, there's obviously a big party scene, and, you know, suicides there and self-harm as with a lot of places. But, you know, having to be, you know, I couldn't imagine what it would be like getting asked those sorts of things or questioned on those things on a daily basis, right? It would get to a point where you get quite frustrated to say the least, right? So what can we do to make it more comfortable for people?
Yeah, I think it's creating that safe environment. So if it's unsafe, people won't be comfortable who they are, and they'll keep editing and they'll keep creating other people. So, you know, I've got a colleague that's in Queensland, and she tells a story of how she used to edit and have this fake boyfriend when she used to go to site. And then when she used to go back down to Brisbane, she had this girlfriend, but she had a different name for him. And then she got caught out one day at that site, and people were really quite shocked, and some were actually offended. But that's the extent people go through. They'll actually make up fake boyfriends or girlfriends. So it's not about outing the person. It's actually about creating that safe environment. So example, and I saw you worked in, you know, as a tradie in some areas, is the terminology and derogatory terms like saying you're so gay, or hey homos, or that's gay. They're kind of labels that reinforce negative connotations and stereotypes. And I know it might sound a bit fun, but they aren't really cool if you're trying to, you know, have everyone be in an inclusive environment. 100%. Even including the gay jokes, like some of them are pretty lame anyway.
Yeah, but no, I'll put my hand up. I'm guilty of using stuff like that, and sometimes even like I'm aware of it, right? And you know, even in some of our men's circles and stuff, some people will say that, right? And I, you know, there may be some people that I know there again. I'm like, fuck, like, but obviously everyone's at different points. But our goal is to collectively start changing the use of those words, because my belief, as well as, you know, I don't say that to hurt someone's feelings. It's just, that's how you know, I'm not using this as a fucking excuse. I'm trying to change that, but that's what I grew up saying and, you know, being around. But now that I'm more aware of it, I'm actively trying to make sure I don't make jokes about that or use that, derogatory terminology, because it does impact, right? I even know when I get people say things at me around whatever it is, it's like, yeah, it may be worth a laugh, but to me, when I take it, I'm like, well, fuck. Yeah. After a while, it chips away at you.
And that's one of the great roles. That's what I call kind of an upstander, and that's someone that kind of goes, oh, that's not cool. Or if someone else is saying it, you might just say to them, hey, that's not cool, let's use another word. Yeah. And by doing that over a period of time, you actually start to change your language, and then you create a more inclusive environment. So I think that's pretty important.
100%. I think that's awesome, mate. Well, Cam, I really appreciate, obviously, you as a person, but I appreciate you coming on and giving not only myself, but everyone who listens to this a much better understanding, and also for those who maybe are going through something like that as well, a good understanding of what it was like for you. But also you mentioned a few resources there, and just different ways of thinking, and just even the tip around making sure you have a supportive environment there. So I appreciate you giving up your time. I know you're a busy man, and you're doing some great things. So thank you for educating us, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Really enjoyed it. If anyone wants to reach out to me in the group, just please do.
Where can they find you?
Well, on a new kind of type of resource called Facebook, which is social media.
Mate, you only got on Facebook for the program, and now you love it.
Not really. I've still only got 20 friends keeping it to that so far. But yeah, you can still ping me on Messenger or through our through the Man with Can that can.
Yeah. Group. Do you want people to find you on Instagram as well, maybe, or nah?
Sure, you can. I think I've got that semi-open. Cam Tirendi. You'll find me there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, appreciate your time, mate. All right, gents. Well, thank you for tuning into another episode. I hope you guys, and I know you guys actually would have got as much out of that episode as I did. Those questions Cam threw at me, I hope you took some time to answer those as well. And, just had an idea of what that may feel like to be, constantly questioned and asked those things on a day-to-day basis. For me, I could imagine it would frustrate me and infuriate me being asked those things. Also, I really want to appreciate you guys who have tuned in all week and being a part of the Men's Health Week series. There's some phenomenal guys, as mentioned, and these were a few that we, I reached out to this week, but there's plenty more in the community. So, as I mentioned, if you aren't a member of the Man That Can Project's Facebook community, definitely find the links there. Or you just search in Facebook, the Man That Can Project, and make sure you hit group. Also give the page a like. But also you can find the link in the Instagram pages. So look forward to seeing you guys in there. And once again, thanks for the continued support. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.